Hi guys, it's Splash and Crash with another video. Before we start, I just wanted to say the video quality might not be as high as some other videos on YouTube because I'm only 13, so my budget is $0. So I'm doing this with Google Slides and a video screen recording software called Screencastify, which has a 5-minute limit on all the videos. So I'll also have. So there'll be big pauses. Well, there'll be like a few second pauses at some points during the video, just because Screencastify has that 5-second limit, has that 5-minute limit on each clip. And some of the pictures in this slideshow are also they don't look as clean because I photoshopped them myself. Anyways, let's get started with 40 big what ifs in NBA history. First one we have is, what if Tim Duncan went to the Magic? Back in the year 2000, the offseason, Tim Duncan almost signed with the Magic, but when he asked if his wife could ride the team plane, Doc Rivers, the coach, said no, which caused him to re-sign with the Spurs instead of going to the Magic. If he went to the Magic, he would have formed a dynamic duo with T-Mac, or maybe a big three with Grant Hill if Grant Hill's a bit less injury prone because there's less pressure on him. But even if Grant Hill still gets injured to hell, this team probably gets out of the East for like 3 or 4 years and faces the Lakers in the finals, where they'll probably win a few times. Anyways, next one we have is, what if Kawhi Leonard went to the Lakers in the 2019 offseason? Kawhi had 3 options: Lakers, Clippers, or Raptors. He chose Clippers, but if he chose Lakers, then he would have formed an incredible big three with LeBron and AD, and KD probably re-signs with the Warriors then, and there's an incredible rivalry between the Lakers and Warriors. Next one we have is, what if LeBron and D. Wade signed with the Chicago Bulls over the Miami Heat? So they were either going to sign with the Bulls or Heat. They chose the Heat because the Heat had Chris Bosh. But if they signed with the Bulls, they would have had this incredibly deep core that included Derrick Rose, Joakim Noah, and Luol Deng, those 3 were all-stars, and then Jimmy Butler, who was a future all-star, and Richard Hamilton and Carlos Boozer, 2 former all-stars, would bring a big veteran presence to the bench. Next one we have is, what if Jason Kidd signed with the San Antonio Spurs in 2004? This one, he said it was a done deal, but on the way home from meeting with the Spurs, he said he got cold feet and decided not to go to the Spurs. If he went to the Spurs, they would have had an incredible big four. I think they moved Tony Parker to the shooting guard and progress him as more of a scorer than a facilitator. And they keep Manu off the bench and eventually move him to a small forward when they start him for a few seasons. So I just had to pause it because the screencast reached the 5-minute limit. But anyways, here's our next what if. It is, back when the Harden demanded a trade from the Thunder almost traded Harden for Klay Thompson, but I forget why they backed out. But one of the teams backed out. I believe that this would work out great for both teams because I think Steve Kerr could turn Harden into what Klay Thompson was, but better offensively and not as good defensively, but he would probably be decent on defense. And I don't think Harden would become that crazy ISO scorer he is in real life, but I think he'd be a catch and shoot wing player, okay at defense, but also good at driving and cutting to the basket. And then for the Thunder, I think this works out really well because even though Klay Thompson probably isn't as good as Harden, he's a really good fit because he can just like he doesn't need the ball in his hands. He can just camp in the corner or around the 3 point line, catch the ball and shoot it if Russ or KD are getting locked up. And he's also really good at defense. Klay Thompson is definitely a much better. He's definitely much better than the original, the original stuff they got for Harden. So and then these, I think KD. I think OKC might win. OKC probably wins at least one ring with Klay Thompson. So I don't think KD leaves, and then we get a really good rivalry in the West between the Golden State Warriors and the OKC Thunder for many years. Next, I actually have two here. They are Kobe and T-Mac. There was two instances where so they both almost went to the Bulls, not at the same time, but I put them together because Kobe and T-Mac are very similar players, and they both almost went to the Bulls. But anyways, in 1998, you guys probably saw this in The Last Dance, where Jerry Krause offered Scottie Pippen for T-Mac, but Michael Jordan didn't let that happen. So, but if that deal went through, the Bulls get T-Mac. Michael Jordan, he probably would have still retired, but let's just say he doesn't retire. He was really good, even when he was on the Wizards. So, which is around the time that T-Mac was entering his prime. So this might open another championship window. And in Kobe's case, in 2007, the Bulls offered a huge package for Kobe when he was demanding a trade, but he had a no trade clause, and the Lakers found out that he was declining, that Kobe was using his no trade clause on all the deals that included Luol Deng. So they then decided to only take offers that included Luol Deng, so Kobe would have to stay. If either of these deals happened, the NBA would be completely different, and the Bulls would have one more legend to add to their already pretty stacked all-time roster. So for our next what if, we have what if Kristaps went to the Philadelphia 76ers. I know there's deer and fox in this video. I'll explain that in this picture. I'll explain that in a second. So basically in the 2015 NBA draft, the Philadelphia 76ers selected Jahlil Okafor with the third pick instead of Kristaps, who went to the Knicks with the fourth pick. This was one of the stupidest moves of this entire decade. If Philly took Kristaps, they'd add another all-star to their team instead of a player that, like a 1990s type of center. Kristaps is the perfect modern day big, especially to place alongside Embiid. He would stretch the floor for Embiid, and also they took Ben Simmons in the next draft in real life. According to WinShares, since the 76ers were so bad, according to the WinShares, even Kristaps wouldn't be able to save them from being the worst team in the NBA. So they'd still get the number one pick. They'd still draft Ben Simmons. And I checked the WinShares for the next season. Now this time, the standings get changed up a bit, and I forget which pick the Kings were projected to have, but in this new NBA, Philly's projected to have that pick. So if you readjust the lottery, Philly ends up with the fifth pick, which actually helps them out, because now instead of taking Markelle Fultz, who has that really bad injury, or Alonzo Ball, they take the third best point guard available, because Alonzo and Markelle would have already been taken. And with the fifth pick, the 76ers would have selected De'Aaron Fox, giving them So four of their starting five players would be they'd have three all-stars in their starting five. De'Aaron Fox, who's a borderline all-star, and then they still might make the Jimmy Butler trade. So that's a fourth all-star. So their entire starting five. So they have a big five. And they probably can re-sign Jimmy Butler because now they don't have to pick and choose between him and Tobias Harris. So, yeah. It's a big mistake, Philly. Anyways, our next what if is what if the Portland Trailblazers selected KD instead of Greg Oden. Before I get into this what if, Greg Oden is not a bust. It's not his fault that he was that bad. He was actually really good when he played. But it's not his fault he got injured. That's not his fault. So people have to stop calling Greg Oden the bust of the century because he's not even close to that. Greg Oden is a good player. He just got hit with the injuries. Anyway, so if the Trailblazers took Kevin Durant, they'd have an incredible big three of Brandon Roy, LaMarcus Aldridge, and Kevin Durant. Brandon Roy, he probably still gets some injuries, but maybe his injuries aren't as bad because now they have Kevin Durant on the team, who is an MVP level player. LaMarcus Aldridge also probably doesn't leave later on, that's way far into the future. But the Trailblazers, if they could surround these players with some a pretty good a pretty good supporting cast, they might have been able to win a championship somewhere along the line, down the lines. Anyways, so the next what if we have is what if the Magic selected Kobe Bryant and didn't mess up the draft pick in 1996, and they also kept Shaq. What if all that happened? So basically, way back in the 1992 draft, this is going to come up later too. The Magic selected Chris Webber with the first pick. The Warriors selected Penny Hardaway with the third pick. The Warriors then offered Penny Hardaway and 3 first-round picks for Chris Webber. One of these first-round, the Magic accepted it. One of these first-round picks was in the 1996 draft. It turned out to be the 11th pick. I forget who they picked, but all I know is he was a really bad bust. He sucked. He was absolutely horrible. With the 13th pick, the Hornets were able to take Kobe Bryant. If the Magic weren't stupid and took Kobe Bryant, and they would have had an incredible team. And then another thing they messed up in that same offseason was they lowballed Shaq. They gave him about half of the max, and they eventually offered him close to the max, but he already accepted the max contract from the Lakers. If the Magic didn't lowball Shaq, they could have had what the Lakers had, except they throw Penny Hardaway on top of that, who he probably he might still lose a lot he might still go down to injuries, but I don't think they'll be as bad because there'll be way less pressure with 2 all-time greats on his team. This team would we already know they win 3 championships from 2000. They win the 2000, 2001, and 2002 championships. We already know that happens. And now you throw Penny Hardaway on it, they might win 1999. I don't think they win 1998 against Jordan or any of the championships that Jordan won, but I think they would have been able to beat the Spurs in 99 and maybe even the Spurs in 2003. Next one we have, you guys probably already know this. What if what if the Pistons didn't screw up their pick in one of the greatest drafts of all time and drafted Melo instead of the Serbian bust Darko Milicic? 2003, you guys already know it was an incredibly stacked draft class. There was LeBron, Wade, Bosh, Melo, and the Pistons took Darko with the second pick. They got this pick from many years before from the Memphis Grizzlies, and they decided to take Darko Milicic. If they took Melo, then they could have moved Tayshaun to the bench or put Melo on the bench for the first season because they won the championship that season. They would have had they could have had an all-star starting five if they moved Tayshaun to the bench. Plus, Tayshaun probably would have won Sixth Man of the Year. Ben Wallace might not leave. This team wins. I can guarantee you that this team wins more than one championship with Melo instead of Darko. The next what if we have is, what if the Lakers got T-Mac to pair with Shaq and Kobe? So back before the 1997 draft, T-Mac went to the Lakers draft workout, and the Lakers were absolutely fascinated with him. During the workout, he was going insane offensively. They thought he was even better offensively than the high school guard that they took the year before, Kobe Bryant. They might have been right. T-Mac, throughout his career, was an incredible scorer. He scored over 30 points per game in multiple seasons. He won multiple scoring titles. T-Mac was an incredible player throughout his career. If the Lakers, if they didn't, the only reason they didn't get T-Mac is because Jerry Buss didn't want to trade Eddie Jones, who, to be fair, was an all-star, but was also holding back Kobe by not because Eddie Jones was taking Kobe's starting role. If Jerry Buss was competent and traded Eddie Jones for T-Mac, T-Mac could have played point guard or small forward, and then Kobe could start. And that year, Kobe was an all-star off the bench. Imagine what he would have. He was an all-star starter off the bench. Imagine what he would have been if Kobe was starting. Probably like a 26-point per game scorer at 19. T-Mac in real life also came off the bench for the beginning of his career. But if they put T-Mac at point guard or small forward, which he could have easily played, then they would have. They had 4 All-Stars that season. They would probably only have 3, but T-Mac would definitely be much better than Eddie Jones. And maybe T-Mac can help Shaq and Kobe stop fighting. And even if he doesn't and they still trade Shaq, there's the dynamic duo of T-Mac and Kobe that probably also wins a few championships. Lakers definitely missed out with this one. The next what if we have is, what if the Houston Rockets got Clyde Drexler and Michael Jordan in the 1984 draft? So in 1983, with the first pick, the Rockets took future Rookie of the Year 7'4" All-Star Ralph Sampson. Ralph Sampson was incredible. So he was one of the best players on the Rockets, and he was basically untouchable. In that draft, the Trailblazers took Clyde Drexler, who had an okay rookie season but showed flashes of greatness. In the next draft, the Houston Rockets get the first pick again, and they make a really good move and take Hakeem Olajuwon. The Trailblazers, who are desperate for a big man, offer the second pick in their guard Clyde Drexler, who ended up being a Hall of Famer, to the Rockets. The Rockets could have then taken the GOAT Michael Jordan with the second pick to make a Hall of Fame big three of Clyde Drexler, Michael Jordan, and Hakeem Olajuwon. At this time, Ralph Sampson's value was through the roof, so the Rockets understandably rejected this trade. and Ralph Sampson his career would end due to a bunch of injuries, and the Trailblazers would waste their pick on Sam Bowie. If this trade went through, every champ, every the first 8 years of the 1990s, for 8 years in the 1990s, the championship team was either led by Michael Jordan or Hakeem Olajuwon. They're both on the same team now. Throw in Clyde Drexler, they win minimum 8 rings, maybe even more. The next what if we have is, what if Magic Johnson went to the Boston Celtics to team up with Larry Bird? In 1979, the first pick was decided by a coin flip between the worst team in the West and the worst team in the East. The worst team in the West was the New Orleans Jazz, and the worst team in the East was the Chicago Bulls that year. The Lakers, however, got the New Orleans Jazz pick by trading Gail Goodrich for it a few years prior. So the Lakers won this coin flip, and they drafted Magic Johnson. But if the Bulls won this coin flip, well, in later years, Magic Johnson said he definitely wouldn't have went to the Bulls. He wouldn't have entered the draft, and because he wanted to go to he didn't want to go to the Bulls, because this is before Michael Jordan. Since Magic's not in this draft, he goes back to college and probably wins, and maybe wins another ring in college, or another college championship. The Bulls take the same player, I forget who it was, and in the next draft, the Boston Celtics had the number 1 pick. In real life, they traded this pick for Kevin McHale and Robert Parrish to team up with Larry Bird. So SB Nation did a video on this, so go check it out. But anyways, let's just say they don't trade the pick in this. They take Magic Johnson. They create a dynamic duo between Larry Bird and Magic Johnson, in real life, Magic Johnson and Larry Bird both led their teams to 5 championships and 3 championships, respectively. If you combine them, I don't think they win all 8 championships, because the Warriors are now good. I'll explain that. There's another what if on this list about that. I'll explain it then. But I think they win at least 5 or 6 rings with these two all-time greats, maybe even more. The next what if we have is, what if the 76ers got T-Mac to pair with Allen Iverson? The 1997 NBA draft, 76ers had the 2nd pick. I believe they took Keith Van Horn. That was a very stupid pick, because T-Mac was in that draft. If they took T-Mac, they could have paired him with AI to create an incredible scoring duo that I think it could probably get them past the Lakers in 2001. Because T-Mac was an MVP level player, combining with AI, who was an MVP. Together, they'd average, I think, like 60-something points a game together. T-Mac was also a great passer and rebounder. This team would be the rival with the Lakers in the finals for like 3 or 4 years in the early. Hi guys, this is Splash and Crash. So this video is taking a really, really long time. So I've decided to break it up into multiple parts. So that's the end of part 1. Like, comment, subscribe, maybe share the video so you can help me grow the channel. And hit that notification bell. And in the comments, try to guess what teams will be in the next few parts of this video. Anyways, bye guys.